Hi, it's Robin, the digital ads guy, and today we're going to go through the keyword planner in Google Ads. Okay, let's have a look at the keyword planner. What I'm looking at right now is just an empty account. Well, it's not empty, but there's nothing actively running right now. And I'm just going to use this account just to sort of show you how the keyword planner works, what you can do with it, how it's useful. So the keyword planner is accessed under the tools menu. Then in this planning section, right there, keyword planner. We are going to use it to discover new keywords. So in this particular example, what we have is we have a shoe company, and what we want to do is we want to research relevant keywords to sort of find out what keywords should we be targeting, what keywords can we target, and is there a lot of competition for them, right? Are we going to be paying a lot of money for these? So in this first section here, to start with keywords, the first important thing to do is to pick your location. So for example, mine defaults to Canada. That's where I am. If you go and edit the location, you can pick countries, you can pick states, provinces, you can have multiple regions if you want. In our case, I'm going to say we're got this, this my brand of running shoes, and we're just offering them in the United States for now. So we'll just use that. And then this section here, and I should say down here, you can simply use your website and Google will use its index of your website to pull keywords that it thinks are relevant. But we're going to use it manually. We're going to type in the keywords that we want to seed the keyword planner with. So in our case, we're going to use keywords like running shoes. I may not want to use something as generic as shoes. That may be a bit too much. It's just a planner though. We can always try it. But in our case, we'll just use running shoes. So if I want to remove one from this list, I can click the X, I can hit backspace and get rid of it. If you misspell something, same thing. So there's running shoes. I'm going to put in a couple competitors here. OOFOS shoes, Olukai shoes is another one. And maybe I also want sneakers in this one. So I've got these 4 keywords that are my seed keywords. You could have up to 10, whether you just use 1 or 10 or somewhere in the middle. It's kind of up to you. It's trial and error. It depends on the brand that you're working with. But at any rate, we'll start with 4. And then we'll click on Get Results. Now, what Google is doing is it's going and looking at the seed keywords that I've given it, and it's trying to figure out all the relevant keywords that it thinks you could target. Now, what we're looking at here, we'll start at the top. We've got a chart. This shows you over the last 12 months. So by default, it's the last 12 months. You can adjust it with this date picker up here. It shows you the cumulative search volume of everything in this list here. This is the cumulative search volume each month. This can be useful to spot seasonality. For example, you can see there's an uptick in June, in July, but then it starts to taper off. August, September, October. Is that because people tend to buy running shoes and sneakers before the summer? Potentially. An uptick for November and December. That's weird. What happens in November, December? Well, that's a holiday shopping season. So this sort of tracks with what we would expect in terms of seasonality. Now, the other thing, I'll go over to the right here to the refined keywords, because we've got a large list here. We can see that Google's actually given us 8,200 different keyword ideas. And maybe we know there's some that we don't want. So if we go into the brand or non-brand, we can go through and we can say, oh, Nike's actually not related to what we do. And maybe Adidas isn't either. So we can sort of take some of those brands out. And what it's doing is, for example, if we have, Adidas shoes probably appears in this list somewhere, it'll get rid of it, right? It'll get rid of all the Adidas related stuff. We turned off Nike, it'll get rid of that as well. And we also see it's actually been smart enough to grab Hoka. Hoka is a related brand that I forgot to include. So Google went and found that. That's great. Now we've got retailers here. So things like Amazon, Zappos, these are going to be searches that include these terms. So running shoes, Amazon, buy shoes on Zappos, things like that. And I'll say, okay, we don't deal with retailers. So I'm just going to turn off all retailers. Any related keywords to that, I'm just going to get rid of it to make my list easier to consume. So you can see here, Google started with these 8,200 keyword ideas. After turning off a couple of brands, it's whittled it down to 6,200. It's in the process of getting rid of the retailers. Now it's down to 6,000. Okay, great. Maybe we're happy to start with that. Now, we're looking at this in the keyword view. That's what I'm going to talk about today. I'm not going to talk about the grouped view. That sort of is related. It sort of groups them automatically according to some of these filters here, but we'll just stick with the keyword view. Right at the top by default, it shows us the keywords that we typed in. So these are the 4 keywords that we originally typed in. It shows us the average monthly searches with a nice little graph here. So for example, running shoes, 301,000 searches done every month, just in the US. But you can see here in Google Ads, obviously what you're doing is you're bidding on keywords and there's competition for certain terms. The competition for running shoes is unexpectedly high. So Google is saying you can expect to pay at minimum $1.41 Canadian, $1.41 Canadian, and as high as $4. This is not that bad. The last column here is the year-over-year change. So you can say actually searches for running shoes are down 18% compared to the previous year. OOFOS shoes, the year-over-year change is 80%. Oof, pardon the pun. Those are way down. But then, for example, sneakers are up 22%. So this is more interesting, right? Maybe this is actionable for you, but in our case, it's just interesting. Now, I skipped over the column, which is account status. As we start sort of playing around with these keywords and incorporating them either into our account or into our plan, we'll see that status change. Now, one thing that I like to do sort of right off the bat with this list is I like to sort by the monthly searches. So I click that column heading once and it shows me the most popular searches and down. Because I may, for example, say, I don't want to go after certain searches that are way too high. Like for example, Hoka shoes, 1 million searches a month. I don't want that. I'm not Hoka shoes. I'm looking at them as a competitor, but I don't want the term Hoka shoes. I don't want on cloud shoes. These are way too broad, way too competitive. For me, I don't think they're going to work. So then what I'll do is I'll scroll down here, right? And I'll start looking at these keywords and I'll start deciding whether or not I want to include them in my plan or in an existing campaign. So let's say, for example, the first one, sneakers. All right, I want to include that. There's a couple different things I can do. The first thing I can do is if I click on more, I can add it to my account. Now, this is if you already have a campaign set up and an ad group, or at least one ad group set up, you can use that more, click add to account. Then what you can do to select an ad group is it'll show you your campaigns, your search campaigns, and you can say, okay, I'll pop it into this one. And then maybe what I'll do is I'll just pop it under men's shoes in this particular case. Then what you can do is you can choose a match type. I'm not going to go through match types right now, but you have the option to pick, do you want broad, phrase, exact, right from here. Obviously, you can change it at a later date, but we'll pick phrase match, and we'll just go ahead and add it to an account. Now you see here, this account status column has now changed and it says it's in the account. So I know sneakers is now in my account. That's wonderful. The other option is, let's say we want running shoes. What we actually want to do is instead of just add it to an existing account, maybe we're not ready. Maybe we don't have a campaign yet, or we don't want to mess around with existing campaigns. We can add it to a plan. Okay, so we'll add it to a plan. And now you can see that for running shoes, it says in plan and it's been saved. Okay, now to just make it interesting, I'm just going to sort of, randomly select a few other keywords here and I'm going to add them to our plan. And we can see here, great, there's some in the plan. The other thing that you can do is if you don't want to sort of play around in the keyword planner anymore and mess around with, Google Ads plans or Google Ads campaigns, you can just download it, right? You can download these keyword ideas, pop it into a CSV, put it right into a Google Sheet, and then you can play around with it from there. It'll pull all of this data. So this entire list, this 6,042, it'll pull all this information. It'll show you the keyword, the average search as a competition. The other thing that it'll actually bring in, the data that it'll bring in, are the monthly searches for the last 12 months for each of these keywords. So that's not shown on screen right now, but if you export it, it'll pull all that information. I actually find that's really nice. That's a great way to do sort of your own offline research, as it were. I like to take the keywords out of Google Ads and then play around with them there. And then if I want, I can copy and paste them back into a campaign. What I want to show you now is the actual plan and the things that we can do with the keywords that we have saved. So the first tab along the top here is forecast. Now, this is interesting because what it'll do is, again, this is in the United States. It's for the keywords that we have saved. It's forecasting all the keywords, for the plan that we had created. It's saying, assuming your bid strategy is maximize conversions, it'll show you what kind of conversions you can get for that. It's making some big assumptions, but maximize conversions. And, if you're using the match type, which match type, if you're using just broad match for all of your keywords, or you can change it, to phrase or exact to see how that maybe impacts your results. So basically it's saying, you can get 43 conversions for $60 with a $2 average daily budget. Wouldn't that be great? 43 sales, and I only have to spend $60 to get it. But it's giving you information around, what's your average cost per acquisition, the CPA, how many clicks you're going to get, impressions, what your click-through rate is, things like this. So basically, this is Google doing some wild guesses, which is lovely. It'll even show you, and this is sort of saying, for June, right? Because it's, the time date, for next month is it's guessing what you can get in the upcoming month. Here's your forecast over the next year. You can look at conversions. You can look at just clicks to see what you'll get, what Google is suggesting you spend. In this case, it's sort of keeping it steady at $60 a month, where it anticipates clicks to come from. So this is kind of interesting. Take it with a grain of salt, but it's very interesting. You can play around with a match type, as I mentioned. Instead of going broad, maybe you go phrase. See how that affects the results. It didn't affect the results, so there you go. The saved keywords here, this is simply a list of all the keywords that we saved into the plan. Nothing to be done here other than simply, download that list, do what you want with it. The other two tabs, negative keywords, you can incorporate this into your plan. We're not going to go through that right now. And organize keywords. This is a relatively new feature to Google. It should allow you to sort of, create a new campaign and create ad groups and then start taking your saved keywords and putting them into those ad groups. In my experience, as of May 9th, 2025, it's not working very well. So I'll skip that. But that, in a nutshell, is the Keyword Planner. It is a very useful tool for figuring out the types of keywords you want to target, and also going a lot broader than what you think, right? All of a sudden you will discover new keywords you didn't even realize were there, and you can think, great, I'll now target those. Or here's a great idea for a negative keyword, right? In our case, we don't want Nike, so I removed it with a filter, but we can also put in Nike as a negative. We can put in Air Jordan as a phrase negative if we want, things like that. It's also pretty good for SEO. But at any rate, that's the Keyword Planner. Hope you enjoy the video.